Hey, I thought I'd do a quick overview for Dynasty Warriors 9. So, the first thing I'm going to cover is how the story mode works. Basically, it seems like they've put an emphasis on just playing the characters when they actually did something in history. But the problem is, you'll have characters that will be, like, obviously present in the cutscenes and stuff, and in the missions, but you can't play as them. So there are some characters that you only play for like one chapter. Like Ling Tong, for instance. I'm working on his, and I think he just goes through chapter 6. But if you play as like Cheng Pu, you play as him for about half of the story mode. So if you want to unlock all the characters, it's definitely recommended to play like one of the 3 rulers or Cheng Pu. So when you get to a certain part in a chapter, and when you finish a chapter, you unlock all the respective characters for that faction. So say I finished this chapter, you see all these characters here that I unlocked. They're also unlocked for all the other factions. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It definitely does feel like you should be able to play as more than one character. Like Zhu Ran, for instance, like the bow staff moveset's not bad. I mean, it's decent. But being stuck playing as him for all these chapters with like no choice of playing as anyone else, it gets a little tiresome. It doesn't really allow you to, mess around with the other characters, which, despite the clone apocalypse in this game, there's still like 35 to 40 unique movesets that you can't fully use because you can't use the unique strings and the special attacks and stuff. So I think that's definitely one of the weaker aspects of the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a little bit of the story mode here. Now this game's got a lot to cover, so I'm just going to cover the basics. I'm sure people are going to be curious about the customization. In my opinion, this is definitely one of the best iterations of customization that they've done. You have a lot of freedom. There's no like restrictive stuff. It's mostly just you can equip what you want. So on each weapon, there's 6 slots to imbue gems in. And what's nice is that unlike other Musou games, this stuff is not exclusive to one character. Like if I craft this gem, I can use it with anybody else. All I have to do is just reassign it to the weapon, which I do find kind of annoying if they do some quality of life patches for this, which I'm sure they will, given all the complaints they're getting. I'm sure that will be one of the things that they address, is just making it so the gems stay on every weapon instead of having to take them off. Let's say if I take this gem, oops, or rather if I take one of the wind gems here, see, it will tell me that it's been equipped to another character, but all you have to do is just replace it. So each element has different attributes it will have on it. Like fire has attack plus 21%, which is good. When you equip something, when you equip a gem on one of these slots here, basically when you use that attack, it will attach that element. So if I land a counter right now, I'll get wind element, which will just give me a whole ton of attack speed and Musou attack damage. If I equip the fire gem, then I just get a raw attack buff. So you do want to put some thought into where you put things. Like obviously counters are really important for fighting the endgame enemies and the playable officers. So for that I would probably put fire. Fire is probably a better choice. Now for these other ones, guard break, you do use guard break quite a bit, but it is a little unruly in this game. You can't cancel into it as fast as you'd like. A lot of times you kind of have to hit confirm off like the first S string attack that you do, and then immediately press triangle, and that will guard break them. Otherwise, depending on the character, you won't be able to get it out fast enough before they roll. So let's spec him in attack speed, just for fun. There are some dudes to fight right here. Perfect. So here's my base attack speed. Now you're seeing it's much faster because I've attached the wind element. Now in terms of how the battle system works, let me get away from these guys for a little bit. So you have your flow attack button and your reactive attack button. And the reactive attack button will do something different depending on the situation. If you're far away from an enemy, you can use the dash attack just by pushing triangle, and that will make it so you close the distance. Now, if the enemy is blocking and you do it fast enough, like I said, then that will go into a guard break. If you get them down to a certain amount of health, then it will do an execute attack, which is definitely one of the more clunky parts of this game. Sometimes it'll prompt you to do the execute attack and it just won't work. That's definitely something that they need to fix. So when you do a trigger attack and it hits, it will transition into another string. So say if I do this attack right here and it hits something, then he'll go into his stun string. If I do the aerial attack and I hit something, it'll go into the aerial string. And then if I do the knockdown attack, the same thing. So we're going to put all that together in a little fight here. There's most of the mechanics right there. You can also charge up your trigger attacks. That will give them more range, and it will also stagger enemies that are in hyper armor. It's also unblockable, so you want to be using those as much as possible. Now, in terms of the accessories, that's basically the gist of the battle system. Also, when you want to counter, basically you have to dodge an attack. You have to kind of dodge away from it, and if you don't get hit, then you'll get the counter prompt. Also, alternatively, what you can do is you can just kind of wait for them to do certain attacks. Now, it does quite a bit of damage, so what I like to do is I'd like to put the fire gem on the counter, because that just gives me more damage across the board. But it's up to you. This system is very customizable. You also have upgrade points. Now, the current meta, from what I've seen, is people are just buffing attack and run speed. Run speed does make a pretty significant distance. I actually timed it, and it was like removing like maybe a second or two from like traversing small distances. So it definitely does matter. Most people are just buffing attack because the other stuff is going to be heavily buffed just from leveling your character. Now, the weapons in this are different from other ones. They don't have anything on them natively. Basically, they're just for stats. So if I equip the worst weapon, which is like his 1-star weapon, then I wouldn't really lose anything but stats. I could still put all the gems on it and stuff, and it could still be a pretty competent weapon. Now, in terms of the accessories, there's some pretty interesting ones. Most of the interesting ones are in enhanced actions. Like I have this, which allows me to jump cancel at any time, which means that even before an animation comes out or finishes, I can jump cancel. This adds more air dashes, and this makes it so that when you air dash or evade, there's a chance that it won't take stamina. Now, there is a stamina system, and a lot of people, including myself, were kind of on the fence about that. I can say from experience, I have like maybe 30 hours in this game, a little over 30 hours. It doesn't really make much difference. You very rarely will run out. Like if I put my weapon away and run for a little bit, you can see it's depleting pretty slowly, and I haven't put any stats in stamina at all. This has all been just natural, his natural stamina growth. Now if I wait for it to come back, It doesn't take too long. They also give you a ton of items that you can use to kind of mitigate whatever you'll be losing. You have all these items here that will give you your stamina back. Now if you air dash or dodge, it does take quite a bit away, but you're not going to need to do it too much. Usually if you dodge properly, you get a counter, and during that animation your stamina is going to come back regardless. See, I can air dash like maybe 6 or 7 times before it depletes. You have 4 item slots, and you can put whatever you want in these. Most of it's pretty boring stuff. You'll have you have your healing items, you have your Muso items, you have combination items, some buffs, and then you have all the hunting stuff. You have the traps, the fish bait. And for arrows, there's a variety of arrows as well. These are mostly used for hunting. If you do get a vantage point and you can attack someone without them seeing you, it does a pretty significant damage buff. But other than that, I don't particularly use it that much. What's nice about this game is it does have numerous ways that you can complete objectives. It's far more open-ended than any other Muso game. Basically, if you go through a battle, I don't think I have access to a battle where I could easily show it right now, but if you go through a battle and you want to just be, you know, an ancient Chinese Rambo and just go straight to the commander, you can. If you want to actually cooperate with your allies and slowly work your way into the enemy camp, then you can as well. Actually, I can show a little bit of it right here. The frame rate's going to drop because this game does not like my PC. I don't know if it's exclusive to me or not, but just warning you right now. So as soon as he advances, I have the option of just fighting with everybody, or I can just go straight over there. I personally like it. The kind of strategy you use to just bum rush the camp is basically the same every time. You will use a grappling hook to get over the wall of the castle and just kind of just jump over there. It's the same thing every time, but after like 20 years of massive message lag for doing stuff like that, it's nice to have the option to do it. I think it's one of the open world aspects of this game that's executed better than basically anything else. There are a lot of really rough spots in this game, but I think the open-ended approach to the missions is nice. I basically have been speedrunning a lot of them because I went to go get all the good gear and stuff. There's no real particular need for me to wait for the allies when I can just go rush the commander and combo him a couple times and end the mission completely. I think the combat in this game is pretty good. It is a little bit flawed. It could use more moves. There's not as many moves as they'd like you to believe. You basically only have 3 strings, and you have some different reactive attacks that you can do. It does feel a little limited, but at the same time you can do some pretty cool stuff as well. I'm pretty sure in the future iterations of this game they'll probably expand on it a little more. Obviously with like half the cast being clones, it doesn't really lead to having a lot of room to expand the movesets too much. No, naturally he's going to fall in the water. That's basically the gist of it. I'm not going to wait for him to swim back up. You can just kind of bum rush the camp instantly. So if you want to see how the other characters work, now when you start as them, sometimes they will level up depending on the progress of other characters. Now free mode is basically you can go into any chapter with any character. Like say I want to play as Yanshur. And I could play as her in a chapter that she normally would not be playable in. Which, given the way this story mode is structured, is it's a major blessing. I hope that at some point they'll reach a compromise and let you play as characters who are actually present in whatever point of history that is, because it does get a little tiresome only having like 2 characters to choose from out of like, you know, probably 30 or so per faction. So the missions will basically start over, but you can do whatever you want. Like if I want to go fishing right now, all I have to do is just go over here. Now, as I explained in my farming guide, fishing is actually really good. Oops. But I've already explained all the aspects of that, so I'm going to go ahead and show how the shop system works. Well, actually, let me switch characters really quick because I can't go to the main town. That's another annoying thing about this game, is sometimes it just like won't let you go to the town that you want. It'll block fast travel. Now they were nice, and for most weapons there's only like maybe 2 rare weapons for each type. So you don't have to worry about getting 90 unique weapons when there's only like 40 unique movesets in the game. So in here you have this hunting NPC. And when you get hunting points, he will have various items. He has a bunch of the rare coins, some items you can sell, a bunch of gems, and that's basically it. So this is definitely a good way to kind of start towards the progression of your characters, is you can just come here, do some hunting, and if you get lucky like me, you'll break the hunting point system and you won't even ever have to do this again. I hope that they add more rewards, because I'm like almost over three times what the max reward is. Yeah, he's pretty useful. If you do a bunch of hunting, he does kind of get useless pretty quickly. Now with the coins, you can get scrolls. Scrolls are how you craft items in this game, and you need 3 scrolls to craft an item. Like say I wanted to buy this right now for him. I already have his best items, so I won't do it, but you would need to buy 3 of them. And then you go over here to the blacksmith, and he will have it available for you to craft. Like I have the Kusari Gama here, I can craft this if I want. I have the gauntlets, and it will tell you the items that you need. Like for these, I'm missing 2 scrolls, so I can't craft them. But for this one, I have the scrolls and the materials, so I can craft it that way. Now the coin collector is one of the best NPCs in the game because he gives some of the best gear in the game. He has all the best weapons in the game right here. A bunch of gems. This is the easiest way to get gems, especially since you can reset and get the optimal stats if you want. He has all the best accessories in the game as well. I have not finished the game yet, so I'm not entirely sure if you can craft these later on, but most of them you can. So depending on the currency, there's different things that you can get. There's a bunch of quests as well. There's standard, boring MMO type fare, you know, go kill 5 wolves or 5 officers or something and get a bunch of rewards. Now, there are also watchtowers. We're gonna go hunt down a watchtower really quick. Watchtowers help you to find fast travel points and other points of interest on the map. So we're going to set a waypoint for that right now. Alright, go back. Alright, let's try this one. The pathfinding is not great. A lot of times you can take a shorter path than what the game will tell you. So it's not complete autopilot. You will have to pay attention to where you're going, because most of the time there's going to be an easier way to get there than what the game detects. That's definitely one of the aspects of this game that needs some work. I think the open world is actually pretty decent. It's too big. It's really hard to just get to a fight sometimes. When they improve and iterate on this game, I hope they just add a mode where you can get into a long battle really quickly without having to just run around. They are nice and they do give you ample fast travel points, so once you do a bit of initial exploration, it'll be a lot easier to just go wherever you want. Like right now, this revealed some interest points for treasures, or harvest points. So it will tell you which material is at each point. So you want to hit watchtowers as much as possible because you're going to need these to craft. Now there are villages that have a lot of these items that you can just buy, but they can be hard to get to and it can be quite expensive. So at the beginning of the game at least, it's definitely really useful to do this. So if I go to any of these spots right now, let's go to this one since it's close. Then there will be a cluster of that item there. Like here it is right now. That's basically the gist of it. That's how the materials and crafting combat system, I covered pretty much all the bases. In terms of what I think about the game, I do think it's pretty fun. I am enjoying it more than I thought, but it definitely has a lot of flaws. The open world is just far too big. A lot of times the fights can be too short. The ways that you can just Rambo the game are pretty one-dimensional. That may or may not bother you. You know, depending on what your gear is, you may actually want to have your AI with you. You may want to boost the morale and stuff. The game is actually pretty easy. You can level past things if you want. Alternatively, you can play on Chaos and try to go the Rambo route for most of the battles, and you'll probably have a difficult time. There are hyper-armored officers, or hyper-mode officers, that won't stagger to anything but charged attacks and counters and Muso. So it can be kind of difficult to fight them, but those can be some of the more exhilarating battles. I've had a lot of fun fighting the bandits because you can't just, you know, mash on them. You have to like really think about what you're doing, dodge the attacks, and try to get the counters to kind of get a good vantage point, attach your elements, and get a good combo going. I think the battle system is actually pretty good, but there's not that much progression to it. You have your full moveset at the start. It does not grow or develop at all. The only thing you can really do is you can add stuff. Like having the attack speed is pretty nice, but you do kind of sacrifice a lot of raw damage for that. So I think the customization is the best it's ever been in any Muso game. It's very lax. You know, if you craft something, you can share it with every other character, which is something that they haven't really done before. You know, the clone apocalypse actually does help as well. Like if you have a character that's got, you know, 2 or 3 other clones, then you can share that weapon with them and you don't have to go get another one. I'm sure when they add more unique weapons, it's not going to be that easy, but so far in the season pass, they've only said that there's going to be 3 additional weapons, so it's nice that you can just you can craft a weapon and you can use it with multiple characters. All the gems are shared as well, so they have streamlined a lot of things from the combat, even the travel. I think the traversal in this game is actually pretty good. You do spend a lot of time on a horse. I definitely do get frustrated when I just want to play the game and fight, but I can't find a fight that lasts for more than like a minute. I think that's something that they need to work on, but you can see all the fast travel points I have here. Like, I have tons of places that I can fast travel, so if I'm over here in town and there's something just, you know, maybe a little bit away, I can pretty much get right there right away. So you are encouraged to explore. I like that the exploration actually does make sense. It actually is useful. You can find all these waypoints here. You can get places really quickly. You usually don't have to be on a horse for too long unless you're at the beginning of the game or you're going somewhere very far. More often than not, you will always have a fast travel point to cut out most, if not all, the you know, the boring horse riding. Anyway, my throat's going to go since I've been talking for like 30 minutes, so I'm going to end it there. I hope that answers all your questions. If you have any more questions, go ahead and let me know.